Welcome to SFG Top Performance. Today we have our regulars, Derrick and Jason. We're going to start off today by talking about nitrogen stabilizers. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, last week we had a customer meeting and we had a representative from Rosen's come in and give us a little information about Function N, and they taught me some things that I knew a little about it. We've used it for a few years, and we used it a lot last fall. But they talked about some things that I wasn't aware of. I knew a little about it and a lot. I thought I knew a lot, but I guess I learned some more. One thing that I guess I really learned a lot about was the function actually attaches to the nitrogen. So as that nitrogen moves through the soil profile, the function is moving with it. It's a lot of the competitors just they slow the rhizobial activity down in the furrow right where it's laid, but they don't move down a little bit. As the nitrogen moves down a little bit, they don't move with it. So once they get through that top 3-inch area or 6-inch area, wherever that nitrogen's at, the stabilization's done. But with this product, it's actually is moving through the soil. If it gets down 9 inches or wherever it gets to, it's going to be with it, and it's going to help clear down through, which was interesting because I know they all control the rhizobial activity, but most of them don't move with the nitrogen. They're pretty solid and they just stick to the soil, but this one actually sticks to the nitrogen. So that was one very interesting thing that I learned about the function. Derrick, was there anything else you picked up on the function product?
Biggest thing I think they stressed about is just kind of stabilization as a whole in the spring. We've talked about it. We talked about it quite a bit. A lot of times we just get in these, let's just stabilize in the fall and let the spring go. But they really stressed on that nitrogen has to stick in the the root zone. The first 12 inches probably for 2 months, and then a 1-inch rainfall can move stuff if water's percolating down really good up to 6 inches. So how often do we get these early spring rains that are 4-inch goalie washers? And yeah, that's not all going down, but there's a lot of water going down. So there's a lot of loss potential in the spring too. So it's definitely something to think about as you're using nitrogen in the spring, even with other products, with UAN, that sort of thing. That there's a lot of high cost there, and it's probably worth protecting it a little bit with these stabilizers, because we got to wait. June is when it's using most of that nitrogen. There's a lot of energy in the seed to pop it up out of the ground, and then corn sits there for a little while, and then once it takes off, that's when we need to get the nitrogen as much there as possible. Mm-hmm. But that's one big thing that they stressed that I took from it.
Very much so, and I know we always talk about using multiple modes of nitrogen as well as chemicals and whatnot. And what this also allows, you've been touched on a little bit, but that nitrogen to stay in, to not move to the nitrate form until it's ready to be used in June or July, so you have it during grad fill when you really need that, which I'm not saying you don't need the top dress nitrogen or some other forms. That's still very important, but this helps prolong that and get it there. And along with that, we had the rep from Syngenta, and she talked a little about Lexar-EZ, which is a pre, we're going to in post product. It can be used either way. It's a S-metallochlor mesotrione. It's a matrazine, so it can be used pre. It's a very effective pre product. It's been in the market for a long time, and it works very well. And we can also use it post if we have some things to kill grass and whatnot with it. It works in both environments. We can use it. So with a lot of chemicals being a little short, this is one we're probably going to have to use more of because of other things aren't quite as available as we may like. So this one is available and we have it. So, and it's also very good on emerged broadleaves. The only one that it really lacks on is mare's tail, but the rest of them it's very effective on. So it's a pretty good product that we're using now. So.
Sure. We do a lot of that where on corn pre we had that, and then some 2,4-D in it to get any broadleaves that are up, and have really good luck with it. Long as the weather's good, and it's pretty foolproof. It works pretty darn well for us.
And Derrick, they talked a lot about seed treatments and whatnot. Do you want to talk a little about them and how effective some of these, especially on the Merchman beans, they went over that because Rosen supplies a lot of that product.
Right. So Rosen supplies the tripidity component in our Merchman beans, and what that is, it's a biostimulant. It's got micronutrients in it, growth hormones, that sort of thing, to really, and it's on soybeans to really essentially doesn't work. It's not as much volume as a starter, but it works to get those plants popped out of the ground quicker. And they have there's plenty of side-by-side information where it can be 2 to 3 days where those plants are out of the ground more even, and it's kind of it's not as critical as with corn, but with soybeans, you want to get, if you plant 100 soybeans, you want to get 99 of them to come up, and you just want that consistency. And these type of products really help. And they talk about the yield components of it, and the 2 to 3 bushel, that sort of thing. So not huge on it, but that's something that Mershman just adds to their standard seed treatment. So, and that's one thing I told our customers. It was kind of funny. I had them raise their hand and said, "Who's heard of Trupidity?" Nobody had. And I said, "Well, that's my fault. That's Jason's fault. That's our other sales guy's fault, because it's on every single treated bean that we sell, and we're not promoting it, and we need to be." And that's one extra thing that we need to do better about promoting, showing people, because it really does work. Mershman, they take a lot of pride in their products are heavily tested. They almost they test it every year just to see if it's not going to work. They're not going to add it in to add that extra cost. So they're trying to reduce costs for people, but they can't take that out because they keep seeing the benefits there, and it's every single year. And they've we talk about it a lot with them, and they talk about that it just works, and it's some extra they put on. That I guess that works really well.
Yep, and they've also found that it enhances the fungicide and insecticide activity within the treatment as well. So along with all the other great benefits with it, and getting some micronutrients and everything else in there, it's enhancing that other product to work better as well. So
right, because their treatment, it's got a full rate of fungicide and insecticide too, just like any of the standard treatments out there. So it works as synergistic effect. We use that term quite a bit. So it makes everything work a little bit better. But some other stuff we talked about for seed treatment is like we said, Syngenta was there. We're talking about Saltro. Saltro is our sudden death syndrome product, and what's really nice about that, you don't get that halo effect that we're used to with other sudden death products out there, and that's the one we moved to. You get nematode control out of it too, or at least suppression. You can't 100% control the nematodes. But it has action for both of them, you could say. And years that it's cool and wet, sudden death shows up more, and it's something that's really, it's a cheap insurance policy, you could say, for it, because those years of sudden death hits, it's easily 10-15 bushel that people see. So it's not every year, so it's hard to outguess it, but that infection happens early in the season in cool wet conditions. So it's hard to predict when you're planting middle of April or end of April to know if it's going to be cool and wet all the way through. But like we saw last year, we had that 3 week of wet weather, and the seed treatments really paid. And there was just something that you almost, if you're wanting to plant early at all, you almost just need to have the seed treatment on it just to have that protection.
And there's other products that work very well, but like you mentioned, that halo effect is huge. I've seen some beans clear die from the halo effect in a really wet situation. So, we don't want to knock anybody else's treatment, but this does not have that effect.
Right.
It's incredible.
And it definitely doesn't slow it down. They got side by side information where, those ones with the halo effect are 2 or 3 inches tall, but these they're working on their first set of leaves. So it's a huge benefit, because you just want to get those plants started early, even if it doesn't always hurt the yield late in the season. You just want to get as much growth as possible. That's the name of the game.
Yep. The Syngenta rep also talked about Moravis Neo, which is a new, it's a different, newer class of fungicides. We don't want to take anything against the ones we've been using. They're very good products. It's just availability is probably not going to be there. So we're going to have to fall on this one to use it. And it's a very good 3 mode of action product, and it's, we're not going to skip a beat in where we have to use this compared to the products that we've used in the past. And we're probably still going to use some, but availability is not going to be where it was. And this is available, so it's going to help with that. And
right, and she talked about tar spot a lot too. With that's been a really hot topic for this year, and kind of where Syngenta's seeing the infection coming in, and kind of as a whole, when I'm summarizing the whole industry, it's kind of coming in where the yield gets impacted is later in the season. So the last few years I've been saying, well, why don't we put fungicide on a little bit earlier? You can even put it on V10, V11, that sort of thing, and get that same amount of protection, because the newer fungicides have, they have 30 to 40 days of residual. So that's a long time. So you can get the airplane out there sooner. But with tar spot, it seems that we still need to be spraying in the, when things are almost 75-80% tasseled and before brown silk, or before R1. But that infection of tar spot seems to just ramp up, later, R2, R3 in corn, and amplifies so quick. You know, the life cycle, it's about every 2 weeks, it's doubling. So once you go, one spec, you get 2, 4, 8, and it just moves so fast that we need to have that protection. And once you start seeing those tar spot lesions, it's almost too late. So it's something, susceptible hybrids, we don't really know which ones they are yet because we can't conventionally test tar spot out in the field. But once we do figure out which hybrids are more susceptible, we definitely need to be spraying for those. And it kind of comes down to, it's a safe bet to put fungicide on your fields that you want to push and want to go after high yield. And just the big thing is scouting. We need to be scouting for it this year, and it's small black specks on the plant that look like tar specks, and they don't feel quite as big on the plant like a rust pustule, but they're black specks on the plant that really we don't have anything that really looks like it. But that comes into our scouting conversation and what we can offer with our full service customers, you could say, is our scouting and recommendation package, you could say. And what that is if you're a full service customer, you get full season scouting. We're out there at least four times a year. We're out there when plants are emerging, see what emergence is, make sure there's no replant situations, that sort of thing. And then we get a stand count later in the season. And I like to get, I don't know, Jason, when do you like to get your stand counts? I like to do them about V1, V2, so then you know everything's out of the ground. Because once things start spiking, you want everything to come out of the ground within 2 days on corn especially, but that doesn't always happen. So I like to make sure we have a fair stand count.
Yep, early, and then you still get the opportunity to replant. If you find that situation where it didn't emerge, you can still get out there and clean it up. If there's a wet spot or a spot you find rotten seed that's not going to grow, that V1 or V2 gives you ample time to get out there and replant if need be. So the earlier the better on that, as long as they're all emerged. We want V1, V2 to get them up a little bit and have to be able to count that plant.
Right.
Yep. So
right. And as far as later in the season with our full service, we're always out there before we're generally spraying these fields. So we're out there, V3, V4 times, see how the weeds are coming up, see when we need to get there, because we want to get into these cornfields before canopy, so we can get the product down in the on the ground, hit the weeds, that sort of thing. And then we always check our work to make sure we did a good job, didn't miss anywhere, had to make sure we got a good kill on it. And then it's kind of, we go, I'd say knee high corn, that sort of thing, V5, V6 for a top dress situation. Look to see if, look see if we're gonna be short on that. Yeah, that's right.
That tissue sample, so if you need more nitrogen, P or K, and that is a little extra cost, but it's definitely a benefit, especially with the price of inputs this year. So.
Yeah. But that's where we're evaluating the nitrogen program, and we get to the tassel time and see if we need a fungicide, and then we're gonna do later in the season we're gonna do a yield estimate and check how the yield's doing, count the kernels around. It's not exact, but gives you a good idea of see where the crop is at. But it's a pretty intensive package, and we're out in the field a lot, and we're giving recommendations, and we're giving reports to the farmers, and so it's something we can help out with, I guess you could say.
Yep.
But Charles, what's going on in the application world, or how are we getting close to getting some wheels turning?
Yep, we're getting pretty close. I'd love to say we've been busier than heck last couple of weeks, but it's been thawing out and muddy now, and everything's for the most part ready. We got some sprayers to fine tune. Need to run some water through it, but it's still freezing every once in a while, so it's kind of hard to get a bunch of water in those and let it sit outside and freeze and bust. So we've got some final checks to do on some equipment, and anhydrous equipment's ready to go, dry equipment's ready. It's just we're waiting on some dry weather. Outside of that, there's not a lot of other seed getting delivered. There's not a lot of other work. We're doing a bunch of catch-up work, kind of fill-in work, but we're ready. We got a fair amount of people we're ahead of the game, and yeah, we could always use more people. We know there's gonna be days that we're gonna be, oh my, we need 5 more, people, but we'll get through it. It's just be patient, and it's that way with anything we're doing this spring. It's gonna be go. But anyway, outside of that, we're ready. So just make it dry up. And warm up. So, okay. Well, I want to thank you for joining us on SFG Top Performance. We'll hopefully see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you.